And we got us some new folks who just came in. I'm going to pause for the events. Well, let's take a look at what we got. Let me take a look on here. So we're going to have Jutes raiding now. More raiders into Britain. More fun. That is a yellow player group. Aelus down here. Now this makes something interesting. Was able to hire a couple of Huns. Now he has to start in Africa. And that's going to make me do something that I probably should have been doing before, which is walking my African units by sea so that they could reinforce other forces. That was probably a pretty minor omission before, but I damn well better do it now. There's nothing going on down in Africa. As far as I can tell, something may happen, but you know, the events cards or whatever might generate something. But yeah, with a leader of that quality, I want to make sure that he gets his butt out of Africa and takes that legion and those Huns and starts using them over in either Hispania or Italia. Okay, fortified, and the Huns had no choice in this. They had to accept the money. It's like $4 for 2 cav units. It's a great deal. The Huns, of course, were supposed to get 6 new units under Attila, but because they're subjugated, they only get 3, and that kind of causes issues. Fortified city or unfortified cities are improved, I believe, at this point. Yeah, they have a siege effect on them now. Some rudimentary fortifications are being put up around all cities just to help defend them. Most of the other nations getting a couple of units each. The Huns cannot attack the Western Romans. I don't think they're terribly interested in that. They're interested in the East. But we're getting close to the turn where we have to own lots of stuff, so there might have been an appeal to taking that. The Vandals got a 3rd unit. We got a new horde. Oh, we got some new kingdoms. This is sort of a neutral kingdom that shows a minor kingdom that shows up. I guess it's the Basques. Euskaldun. I don't know for sure. And our new player who's on the board is the Hephalites. And yes, they're spelled with an H in one book and an E in the other, whatever. That's a horde coming in to go screw with Persia, and that's going to be painful. That's a major invasion coming from the east. And that may end the reign of Persian power against the Byzantines. And some new leadership situations. Western Rome has 3 leaders, including their emperor, but they have 2 named generals that is, oh, I'm sorry, the emperor's here. Bonifacius is one of our named generals, I guess. Or maybe a replacement emperor, but whatever. And nothing else too exciting. Outside of that, we get to continue with this general here. That took me actually by a little bit of surprise. Where it says 2nd turn here, that just means the same leaders on the board. Now, in one case, the Suebi, they lost their 2nd turn of a leader because the leader had died already. I think that's specified in the rules. It would be obvious to me that you wouldn't, you know, have an unknown named person. So let's see where we're at. We're at, we don't have the years on these. We have the year over here. So we're at 425 now. And Britannia is still held. Gaul is largely a fief. So nations like this, and this is what's kind of screwy. There's another one. I think the Euskaldians may have been one. There are nations which are listed on here. So Euskaldians may appear earlier. See the Romans play. And under the Romans, you know, if I had given up Hispania or whatever, they would have shown up. But I wouldn't know until now, right? And that's There was something else in the Roman player aid. Oh yeah, so I have the capability with these forces that are in Italy to offer them land in Gaul as a fiefdom, and then they have to leave Italy, and that's kind of an interesting option. I don't think I really wanted to do it with the Visigoths, but I may want to now. Like, they may be more painful for me now, and I believe they have to accept it, and they have to leave Rome or leave Italy, which is kind of an impressive situation. That may be a way of really screwing over some of these nations that really want to be in Italy and they don't want to be in Gaul. So I don't know what the situation with that is. The Ostrogoths, big force coming down to try to settle, but a lot of people are subjugated, and so far nothing has happened to cause that to go away. I looked that sucker up in the rules just to make sure I hadn't fucked something up, because I wouldn't put it past me. You know, I mean, it's almost impossible to remember what the hell's going on. Oh, one of the things with the fetuses, though, is you can refuse it immediately. Like, you can agree to it and then just not take it. So the big bonus there is you're getting victory points and you were given land. But getting someone out of somewhere is different from how the fetus normally works. Normally it allows you to just expand, which is great, you know. The Romans might offer one for the Persians, but it doesn't make a lot of sense in general, which is something I went over before. The return to freedom for the vassals is being submitted or federated by another nation, which is kind of interesting. So I could actually, let's see, who got vassaled by someone else? So I don't think anybody is in that position right now, but there was the possibility, and these things, but they don't count. There's the possibility of like federating something that is owning others. So, for example, if the Ostrogoths either get federated or vassalized, they lose their vassals. So that could change things there. Destroying, you know, like if Rome collapses, that would happen. If Ravenna had been captured, that would release all their vassals, which would have changed the game significantly, right? So the Huns really wanted to see Rome fall or whatever. So far, nobody was able to do it. That Germanic invasion didn't have the option, and I'm not sure how many of those Germans would have gotten that second turn. Some of them, I think. I don't know. The one that I cheated on. And there's also a possibility through an event card, obviously, but, you know, that is pretty rare, I would suggest. People are collecting up events because I can't keep track of them. But, you know, other than the surprise overrun, there's nothing this bunch of barbarians can use. It looks like Pink's been using its up. Blue, bunch of barbarians can't use that. This one's useful for barbarians, and this one's useful for anything. So far, I have not done that. The pillages and orgies, I don't know how valuable that is. You get some extra money, and maybe you burn the city down a level. Neither of which is terribly important from what I can see. Barbarians with money doesn't matter. One thing we're seeing, though, is a whole bunch of these barbarians are at the point where they can start trying to settle. And in fact, the oldest ones next turn are going to go into where they have to start making settlement checks. I don't remember, I think it's like 3 provinces you're allowed to start making checks, and I don't think there are many barbarians, if any, that are that big. The Ostrogoths are, oh boy, that would suck if they had to settle up there. Luckily, and they're getting close, so they had better get home, find their home area. Most of the others want to get to their home area before they start settling into a kingdom so that they can score their points for being what they are. They don't want to turn into a kingdom somewhere they don't belong. And this is, you know, So in Britannia style games in general that don't have, you know, this distinction between military and like this horde capital cities type of thing, you just have a bunch of population that's moving around for the most part, which means you can get where you want to go kind of no matter what, unless you're subjugated by something or whatever. And there are rules like that in most of the Britannia games. I haven't played them all. In all of the ones I've played, I have China kicking around, which I'd like to get to. It's funny because I'm not a huge fan of it, but I have this tendency to collect systems, you know, so it's like, in a sense, this was kind of unavoidable to buy anyway. Like, even if it wasn't a Thibaut game, I would have been like, I don't know about the price. I'd wait until people were so discouraged with what a mess it is and buy a used copy, probably. I'm trying to think of what else I have to babble about at the beginning because I don't know what to say. So I guess it's time to stop saying. Event cards were drawn. We have one enhanced caravans card. Who's this? This is the Barbarian. They're gone. Okay. We had Raiders striking, and in this case, we are seeing the Angles? No, the Angles actually landed with the Jutes, and Saxons not generating any pillage markers, but getting some victory points. And one of the event cards was the enhanced caravans, and then the 10-point caravans up there. So that's going to impact, you know, a little bit on people's money. I was thinking over the night, you know, sometimes, and this is a sign the game's actually impacting me in a way, I go to sleep thinking about it, right? It's new and exciting enough, and there's neat stuff going on, so I do. And I started thinking, wow, wait, can't the Huns rebel so that they could get their 6 units, and shouldn't the Alani have done that too? No, I keep making that mistake. Nomad barbarians don't rebel. It's their subjects who can rebel, which, you know, they have not subjugated anyone. So the Huns are kind of, you know, in the shitter unless I can do something about it. And unfortunately, you know, the Alemanni are subjugated, the Suebi are subjugated. Green has been taken out of the, you know, they've been kind of shackled to Western Rome in a way that they can't really do much to try to force a, you know, a siege of the capital or anything like that. So that's kind of an interesting situation. Other than the Alani, they're the only ones who are subjugated. Okay, so one thing I noticed is I fucked up, not surprising. The presentation of the map, the large counters, the small spaces, the difficulty seeing area boundaries. Persia had a Amida. That is part of Oriens. That's like 20 points that the Eastern Romans actually lost, or losing. So those victory points we had from last time are wrong. I don't remember, is it 20 or is it 15? It's only 10, yeah. But still, I mean, that's a pretty massive switch. Why? Because the map's fucking unreadable with these size counters on it. Again, you know, sure, you memorize the map, maybe you can see these things, but yeah, a lot of effort was put into making the components very pretty, but not a whole lot of effort to making them playably usable in a lot of ways. Some of the counters are kind of hard to read. Some of the leadership values, so like the choice of the color of the print on the Persian units, I can't, this is a +2, I think, down here, sorry, in this left-hand corner. I can see it with the camera. I cannot see that with my eyes, okay? And even with some advances in income, Persia had a lot of units to rebuild. They're down to $6, but they've got their whole army back on the board again. Western Rome's economic card, whatever, they took a military card. It almost bankrupted them. I mean, they had options. They could have aged twice instead, or they could have taken this sedition event that would be very painful. This one, however, gives them their leader and randomly select a level 2 or 3 city anywhere on the map. I think I've got them all marked. We'll get to that in a moment. And if it makes a check, it'll get a pillage marker on it. Otherwise, it's permanently reduced by a level. So it might be some income, but otherwise it's not that big a deal. Sedition was very bad. Aging another year is very bad. I'm not quite sure when I make the decision for converting. It's possible that the Vandals, no, I'm pretty sure they don't. They want to go to Africa. Yeah, I don't think anybody's anywhere near where they want to go. Visigoths want to go to Spain. Ostrogoths want to go to Italy. You know, nobody, I think, is at their home area. Suabia in Spain. Huns don't have the option. Alemanni, maybe. Maybe. Some of these have options. They're getting kind of old. Might be advantageous to us. We're in the areas we kind of want to be in. So I got a couple countries, Franks possibly. Yeah, some of the oldest of the barbarians might want to settle down. I don't know. Okay, so which ones do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of them. All right, I guess I got to get me a 12-sided die. Not the easiest thing for me to find. I don't have a lot of 12-siders. It's been a long time since I played D&D, which is kind of where I would get them from. But I think RuneQuest uses them for some things. But for the most part, yeah, they just not something I use. Ended up being over here at Phoenicia. And let's make its check. It fails the check, which by this card says otherwise the city is permanently reduced to by a level. So I will just throw some things around, and Phoenicia is now a level 2 city, which will of course hurt the Byzantines a little bit, not too much. Course of this game, and this is kind of problematic. I think there's special rules for Rome reducing, but other than, you know, that mighty reduction of Rome, there's enough time that there were significant economic changes throughout the empire, especially as things degenerated. Now you see some significant economic changes in terms of increases as new kingdoms form and everything. There becomes more money available, more cities available. And maybe the idea is things are relative, right? So that the general decline in the empire is keeping pace with these new cities getting somewhat bigger. Because, I mean, everywhere in the empire really does decline. Is that really fair again with someone like Persia? I'm not so sure. The wealth in the Near East did sort of remain in a different way that we have to keep track of. But it's one thing that actually Imperium Romanum handles kind of nicely, although there it's just hey, you start this scenario with this. It's got different values for the cities, and cities disappear and reappear and stuff like that. So there is something else going on there that's kind of interesting. All right, let's see what the costs, how much money Rome brings in, and God knows, because everything's fucking up. And I don't know what happens if, this barbarian submittee, I'm going to have to look that up, ends up, converting into a civilized nation. So I actually probably ought to look that up before I calculate Rome's income. The thing though is, you kind of don't want to convert into a kingdom until you can hold off as long as you can. Yes, you get better units. Yes, you get a different kind of economic system, but it's one that's kind of a pain in the butt that can cause you issues. I mean, even Persia's having problems. They've got to select one of those economic cards. It costs them something. And kind of the best you can hope for is, yeah, I get to operate with my leader and everything just like I want. So there's a lot of disincentive to becoming a kingdom, but the advantages, as far as I can see, I don't know what they are. I honestly don't. You get your elite units. That's the big advantage. And in some cases, I mean, you almost always get victory points for turning into a kingdom, but you can cash those in any time as long as you survive. So, like, unless the barbarian kingdom is a less viable situation, unless the barbarian horde is less viable than a kingdom, you probably want to stay as a barbarian. And then the only question then becomes, well, civilized nations have some advantages to growing, to taking over territory and stuff like that. So then that becomes possible in terms of, like, turn 6, I want a fair amount of territory with the Germans. If I'm not really threatened, if there's a lot of empty space, I may be better off as a kingdom than as an empire, or than as a barbarian. But again, I don't know. One thing I can tell you, you got 12 turns on the kingdom track, right? So there's only 12 turns in the game. So age is probably not going to wipe you out. Yes, you might end up aging more than you intend to, but yeah. And that's the kind of thing that you got to play the game, I guess, to kind of get a feel for when do you want to convert. It's a big decision, and from a naive point of view at this point in the game, I'm just like, yeah, I don't think I want to. But then I start looking at the victory points and saying, yeah, I'm not absolutely certain I don't either. I just can't tell you the answer. There's no clear, there's no clear feeling that just comes from it. To me, it feels like, hey, let's get civilized, That sounds like the wiser choice, but when I start looking at the game mechanisms and the way victory points are gained and such not, I am not absolutely convinced. Persia is having little trouble throwing its entire army on the board. But again, it starts out with a fairly rich area. What would that mean, let's say it's these Alemanni, well, they're sitting on 2 plus a city is like $3, and maybe they get not all of that because they're submitted. Well, then, maybe it's not such a good idea, especially with all kind of hostile barbarians near me. So again, I don't know the answer. I netted a total of $50 after, paying for their double decline and whatever. And I didn't have a lot of cash left over after paying for my card. In order to have enough money to pay for a card and pay the penalties of, being old, which I don't know, whatever that is. I only bought a military card. I might be a passive shit. What is the penalty for my age? It's going to be half my money. I'm only going to have $16. The problem is I'm getting weak. So I'm buying a few new units. I have a ton of units I could buy. And yeah, I could throw the money into them, but that would almost guarantee bankruptcy. So I've got like $31 left over. That may mean a passive campaign next time, which still costs, I think, 10 for an empire. because I'm going to lose half my money. That's going to throw me to 15. That leaves me a little bit of play as well. It's not like the units that I can buy are particularly good, but you know, it means I'm not buying fortifications. I'm not buying a lot of stuff, and I may just have to abandon. By the way, as to the converting to kingdoms, I looked at it. That's supposed to happen during the status phase, and I really don't have the feeling that I should be doing that at this moment. Next turn's turn 5, which means some nations may have to convert, which is problematic. Some may still choose to, but at this point, I'm not seeing that as particularly an advantageous thing to do right now. So I'll throw those extra units down and see what comes. Missed a couple of penalties that I didn't realize. I missed Hispania and Southern Gaul and Italy. So that's 3 more bucks I gotta spend. So there goes some more of that padding. That's for a region. Oh, and Illyria. That's for regions that I do not have total control of. I have control. Wait, it's by city. Shit. Okay, so let's see. I think the trace is there. It's really hard to see, but I think that's where it is. So that's 1, 2, 3 of those bucks come back because I have all the cities everywhere except Southern Gaul. Wait, Southern Gaul. This is a Roman unit there, but this is a city that I lost in Southern Gaul. I think that's Southern Gaul. Here it's absolutely impossible to see. Maybe the camera can show me. Yeah, I can't see anything. But I think Provencia is in Gaul, so that's what I'll go with there. Yeah. The Byzantines are going to be even more painful. Not only have they lost control of areas, but yeah, they lost all kinds of shit. Okay, here I go. I got to pay money from the tributaries in there. I mean, it's just so hard to keep all of this shit in your mind. So the Alans, do they have money? No, that's 1. The Alemanni, do they have money? Yes, they owe 2 bucks. That's 2. The Suebi, paw through and see if they exist. No, that's 3. So I think I've got 3 submitted nations. 4 the Huns. I'm sure they got money. Okay, so I actually get 8 bucks that I wasn't counting, and that throws me up here, which I think I got enough units. I don't know, you know. I have enough units. The real question is, I mean, they're not really enough to defend the stuff, but they're enough that I can lead with my units. I really don't want to do the Byzantine income, so I'm going to put a couple of dice on that and come to that later, because I am not in the mood anymore. This game is just too fucking fatiguing. Byzantines chose a reform card, which was not really all that good. It gave them some cash, but it caused age and it caused a revolt. On the other hand, obviously this one was horrible, but they could have gotten this passive card, which is a breach of alliances, which I don't think would have affected their one client state. So I don't think there's any real reason why we would have, like, I think this would have been a better card for us had we gotten this. I have a marriage card which I could use anywhere, and this might be worthwhile to make a marriage with the Franks of all people, because I'll get the victory points for it, and yes, I would get a Frankish unit transferred over, but that's kind of an interesting choice, which I may make. The Western Romans have a treaty, which is an interesting concept. I can grab a territory. I'm trying to see if there's a territory that I really want, though. I'd have to pay 5 gold. it forces a one-turn non-aggression pact, and the player of the treaty chooses an adjacent province directly connected to their territory that's transferred to them by the enemy. That's a really nice little exchange, and I actually have some extra cash now because some of the other impacts, which, I mean, if there's a location that I want it, it would be kind of appealing. I just don't know if there's anything I terribly want. Next, this is turn 4. I'm interested in the 2 Gauls, Africa, and then I have penalties for any regions that I've abandoned. Right now, I have everything. I gotta look at the restrictions on the diplomacy plays. I'm able to play it up until the point at which one of the nations goes. I can't use it to undo a nation's turn, is the basic impact there. I can make the Visigoths' life really kind of annoying, but with a non-aggression pact, they'd be kind of stuck here, which would be intriguing. And I think I kind of want to do that. Are there alliance chits? I don't think there are. There's these unions, but I think those are for something else. There's Tributus, which I don't know what it does. You know, some of these may be intended for some of these effects, and because sometimes the wording on the counter is different from the wording in the rule, but there's no comprehensive list of all the markers, so I don't think they're there. All right, well, I will continue to consider that and probably forget it until we have, yeah, so we got a revolt, which is down here. It's only a minor one, but it keeps us from building troops there and causes some issues. And now we start going to the nation activation, and I think we want to do that marriage with the Franks. Did the Alemanni, who did nothing. They're hemmed in and really, unless somebody was offering them something, have nothing they can do. They would love to go attack the Franks, but they're divided by a couple of Roman provinces. Good move by the Romans. But I'm looking at this. So the Euskalduns are listed next. They shouldn't go according to the normal sequence of plan. There's nothing that specifies that they're supposed to go next, but it is a little odd where they're placed here. I'm looking to see if other new nations are always pushed there now. So like the Lombards show up here out of kind of nowhere, way down. So I kind of wonder if they're supposed to happen first. I don't think it makes a damn bit of difference because they're coming down against the Persians and there's nothing else down there. So I'll just do them in normal order, which helps me, which is supposed to be decreasing age, so they would be the last of the barbarians to go. Okay, so we paid the Visigoths for that treaty, and because they're not at war with Western Rome after the treaty is made, it turned out they kind of had nowhere they could retreat to. I don't believe that there's stacking room for them anywhere where they could be that's not Roman. Maybe they could be here. Hold on. I think they can be there. I think they can share a space with the, so it was this unit that retreated. I think they can share a space with the Vandals. Nope, it's not a barbarian territory. So they don't get that, whatever that special situation is. Yeah. And I can't retreat into an occupied area is the problem. So there's basically an enemy occupied area. So there's basically nothing I can do. The only places I could retreat to are Roman, and that would be an attack. So I think they lose a unit, and they basically have nowhere they can go, I don't think. Let me consider this, because this may not matter. No, because they're not neutral, are they? They're just prohibited from fighting. It's a non-aggression pact. They don't become neutral, so they can't pass through Roman territory. So yeah, overall they're just, that hosed the Visigoths. Now, blue is not winning the game in any sense of the word, but at least as far as I can tell. But preventing them from settling down and forming their kingdom can only help me, right? So Attila has basically taken the area surrounding Constantinople. Oops. Let's get these troops back. This is dead. Okay. And this is on the second of 3 consecutive leader attacks that I can make. I don't know if it's worth going for. It's part of Greece. I have taken Greece away from the Byzantines. All they have left is Thrace. So they don't, all I have to do is spread out to the provinces after this. The question is, well, first of all, how many units do I need? Because the number I come up with to besiege, to successfully have a chance of assaulting Constantinople is something like a 14. I don't remember what it is. 7. Make it 8, 12, 13. Now, it's worth a lot of victory points to kill. Not a ridiculous amount, but like 8 victory points to kill or something. 6. Plus I could destroy its walls, which would be pretty damn impressive, to tell you the truth. But the problem is, at 13, to have any chance, 12, 11, 10, I will only have 6 units left. That's not enough that I can do anything reasonable with. But by driving the Byzantines away, now I can advance and seize both Moesia and Gracia. I cannot take Illyria because that's Roman, Western Roman. Danibus I already have. Conceivably, I could take like Sarmatia. I don't know what the rules they put in specific for that were. I would say a presence with a barbarian without a horde is sufficient. Although that applies for the civilized too. I don't feel like trying to look up and parse, because they did come up with a rule for that, but it's like, this is the one place it's useful, and it gives me a bonus on the Huns if I have a 3rd place. So I think I'm going to use my 3rd command to spread out and then and let good old Attila die. Now, the problem is the Byzantines could conceivably come back. They still have their leader. They still have some units here. They didn't have much to begin with, but the recovery rate is so easy that I could be able to maybe knock them out of Moesia or something. And that's kind of the problem there. Being unlimited by Attila's movement allowance, which could get me 1, 2, 3 with no problem. And then I could work my way back because he has an extra movement, so he can make it to here and then be able to intercept all over the place. But I can't loot these cities again and get Sarmatia. If I wanted Sarmatia, I don't think I can do it. I just don't think I can do it. 1, 2, 3. No, I can't even reach it. So screw it. It looks like looks like I don't get the Nubis anyway because there's a horde there. So yeah, we'll just spread out. Even so, I had to cheat to do this. I could have set it up so that this wasn't a problem through my movement in previous actions. It was that I didn't take any time to use Attila to set things up. But he managed to pillage both of these. Oh, that's like 8 victory points there anyway. And I'm set up so that I just barely have the regions that I need to convert into a kingdom, which means the Byzantines are going to have a shot at knocking the Hunnish kingdom out of the game still. But, you know, I ended up with less pieces because I'm subjugated and all kind of crap like that. And then the Romans stole 2 of my pieces down here. What the hell? Vandals are off on their way towards Africa. I mean, the Byzantines could have tried to stop them, but they're not really doing a lot of harm. Like, it's just Hispania. Let them go. Fuck them. Although, really, we should be hitting them because the Persians are doing okay. But, I don't know. But I've got these guys bottled up, and the fact that, like, my force didn't go attack them means these guys just stayed there for whatever reason. But I removed pillage markers down here, but I did not remove them here. So these 2 are actually gone. 2 different provinces or areas. This thing just appeared. The Burgundians moved into there. They were overstacked, so they had to do something about it. They want to be in Burgundy, but they don't really want to fight against... They don't want to put themselves in too much danger against Rome right now. That's their main problem. And they're worried about being subjugated, which they probably will be anyway. And that's kind of the thing Rome is looking at. I can keep control of Gaul. I've got a lot of friends in Gaul right now. And who else went? Somebody else went here. The Alains obviously couldn't do shit because they're bubbled up. The Suebi also bubbled up. They could have attacked the Burgundians, and they don't get anything for it. They're trying to make their way down to Spain. That puts us to the last 2, these guys up here. And, once I do them, I'll move these guys to get them into range of their Ostrogoth masters. I'm going to leave this for later. It's not going to play with the Ostrogoths or with those barbarians up there. And I kind of want to hold on to these because they're affecting the east. And that's kind of the biggie, that invasion on the Persians and everything. It's kind of a different sort of thing that's going on. It's kind of a failure. I had to move the horde down to get myself into range where I can start moving into Italy. And these guys have to kind of get Pannonia out of the way to do anything. They might have even tried to subjugate the Huns, take that away from Rome. It would have been an interesting option, but no. So, yeah, I'm not sure. Now, the interesting thing about Aelius here is he could actually go deal with this, but I think I'm going to be using him by boats and try to do something more impressive there. So, I think that has eaten up all of my barbarians, and they're not quite doing what they're supposed to, and they're all just a little short. Maybe that extra turn would have made the difference. I don't know. I'm beginning to think that the game was written without that extra turn, and maybe somebody was like, it's impossible to get to some of these places, and that may be the case. I'm not sure, though. Like here, the problem is I had to move my horde, which means my good leader, who's available next turn too, doesn't get his extra activities to get him in there. And Aelius is kind of interesting because he's around for the next turn as well, but whatever. All right, these guys have to get close to the Ostrogoths, and that could be Barbarian. That seems like the closest place that's adjacent to the area that they're in. So I'll just shift them down. See what happens. I don't think they're supposed to be wandering down here. There were barbarian kingdoms up here that were from a long time back. And that's going to put me to these guys, But yeah, I'm beginning to get a feel that it can represent these migrations and the military aspect in a Britannia type flavored game, in a way that you know you don't get this view in Britannia. You don't get this mass migration. You don't get this. I have to be peaceful to migrate. Uh, well, actually, I'm not sure. Because here, this is crazy. So these guys didn't attack, but they did migrate through territory that was not friendly to them, which I am not absolutely certain they're allowed to do. Isn't that the problem that I had with him? I don't know. I don't fucking know, and I don't know if I have the willpower to deal. So, no, I wasn't looking at moving his horde to do anything. It was his horde I was looking at moving, and the problem was it was way back there. And when moving the horde, I think I could have done and will do this. But I'm not positive. How is not moving the horde defined? How is moving the horde defined? Can it be intercepted? Can you go through anything? I don't know. Without attacking. The fuck? I don't know what attacking means. All right, let's look in the glossary and see what attacking is defined as. Because again, it's like they make this shit up in terms of what, of course that's not there. I mean, sometimes I'm looking at you can't attack means you can't go through a neutral you can't go through enemy territory, and that's kind of defined. So like, if you're subjugated, let's take a look at how that's defined as, yeah, that's defined as you're neutral. So, I mean, am I attacking by taking this territory? I don't fucking know. How else am I going to get things? I mean, does it mean I have to kind of conquer southern Spain before I move forward? I don't know if the word attack is ever fucking defined anywhere. And this is the thing, like, now I'm going to spend an hour trying to look for this shit. Not all on video, obviously. Or I'm just going to fucking give up and say, you know what? I think I know something. Okay. So, okay, attack is not defined here. Yeah, I have no idea. Because here's the thing. This movement could have been intercepted. Now, in invasions, like we had before, we can shift everything over and, stomp all over enemy territory. But this was not an invasion. This is just supposedly a migration. So the question is, did I have to take over Spain to do that migration? Did I not? Did I attack the Romans? I don't know. All right, I'm done for tonight. I'll leave the philosophy for later, but I just don't think that, like, the game is defined well enough to make a damn bit of sense. Half of me is like, oh, let's blame the fact that it's a fucking Kickstarter and it's trying to start off a new company and everything, so had to roll it out the door and everything. If it weren't for the fact that his other games are just as fucked up, right? I mean, there's something I like about it. There's something I like about. Obviously, I love La Grande Guerre. I love Europa Universalis. But this is on a different level. What about the Hispania thing? Like Hispania, which isn't one of his, as I have to keep repeating because. But there's the association through Azor Wish. Like Hispania, this just doesn't seem to justify this level of pain and headache. Yes, it's more interesting than a Britannia, the pure Britannia games. Those games kind of, at this point, you know, when I first got Britannia, there was something I liked about it, mainly because I could get people to play it, and also it's an easy game to play. So, like, there were times when, hey, I just want to throw some dice and shit around and everything, and, you know, History of the World, Britannia, whatever, I could set them up. But as I got more and more of them, it's kind of harder and harder to get any enjoyment out of them, because the system itself is that loose, let's shit around and throw some dice, and then there's a burden towards finding the locations and all that. And it's easier to remember the locations for Britain, which I know a little bit better than, say, India or whatever. But Hispania kind of showed this, oh, you could do something a lot more interesting, and this does too. But, but, not if you're going to fuck it up completely and make a non-playable game out of it. Well, the living rules don't define attack any better than these rules do. However, whatever the fuck this shit is, and I can't bring them up, you know, I mean, they're electronic, and no way the hell I'm going to print that shit out, 100 pages or whatever it is, I don't know, 40, 50 pages. This "and without attacking" has been removed. Like, because obviously it doesn't make sense, but on the other hand, it sounds like now I could migrate and attack like in an invasion, and goddamn, you know, just such a fucking mess. Reasons I'm so upset about this particular rule change is it was one of the very few things that I really kind of liked what it was implying in the game, which was this idea of you had this choice between, do you want to press forward closer to what you're supposed to be getting to, or do you want to fight your way, or you know, do you need your military to fight your way through? I honestly don't know how realistic it was, but there was something appealing about that choice at least. And it did seem to provide these nice migrations without a lot of battle going on, especially in the barbarian territories. Does it make as much sense going through Roman territories? In a way it does. These hordes were moving through Roman territory without sacking cities, without being attacked by the Roman armies. The armies were too weak to do anything about them, something which is clearly not the case here, but could have happened, right, depending on what's going on. And there was sort of an understanding that, okay, they can't just stay there, something's got to happen with them, but Rome wasn't willing to launch an attack. They had some kind of hope of settling these barbarians down in Gaul, in Hispania, whatever. It didn't work out that way particularly, but it also didn't work out too much in the sense of a direct military conflict. And that's what I was hoping this whole rule was going to present somehow. It doesn't. But clearly the replacement for it changes this into more of a Britannia type, hey, we can go kill some things and get a few more victory points on the way in. Maybe if what the difference was is the migrating forces can't get victory points, because the question of whether or not the Romans want to interfere with them, don't let them attack cities, don't let them get victory points. But again, you kind of have to redesign the whole game, and it's going to take a lot of work, not something I can do, to try to craft something that works here, and, you know, not only has some historical accuracy, which clearly the idea of these hordes just ravaging and attacking their way through the Roman territory doesn't. But you know, also hangs together and makes sense and works. And kind of fake it, make mistakes like this or whatever. But I just don't feel like the game is doing the job that was maybe conceived, and the attempts to fix it are taking it further from that into who knows what. The Persians committing a dice event card. They were driven from these mountains. There wasn't a lot of effect. Their units weren't destroyed, but they also didn't pick up any points, which is the only thing they used the reroll for, was to try to get some victory points, which is kind of a waste. I was thinking in the mountains and everything, maybe I'd be able to stymie them there and drive them back and slow their advance of these Ephthalate. Now, I had an issue back here because I was saying these Uskalodons were appearing up here. That's not them, that's these guys. These are the Hephalumps, which is, hey, let's spell things differently or whatever. And, so they're actually embedded in the right place in their turn order, and I did everything correctly. And this little bar is kind of the, hey, these guys are civilized, but you don't know, because we're in a period where nations could have civilized already. The horde down here with me, instead of just leaving it here for the second turn of the invasion, and this is why invasions are powerful, allows me to bring my home with me and allows me to retreat the enemy in front of me. No real damage, battle, but whatever. And then moved into here. I've collected up some victory points from kills, is basically all that's happened this turn. And that's all that you count on for these. They got 6 points. The Persians managed to get 2 off of the incidental damage that they caused. And that's all we got. And now these guys are interested in these 3 spaces as their primary spaces, maybe more in other ways. I don't know. One thing about becoming a kingdom is it does unlock your counter mix. Barbarians tend to get a couple counters a turn. A kingdom could conceivably, if it's kind of wealthy, rebuild its counter mix, all the way up to the max. The problem that I'm seeing, though, is I'm not in the areas I want to become a kingdom, and maybe there's not a great advantage to becoming someone in most cases. Interesting thing about the Persians is they kind of don't care about this. I looked at their turn 6 victory points, and, you don't know what's going to happen down here. But over here, it's the same as their turn 3 victory points, which means I'm focused on this. To hell with my back areas, I can let them rot. In a Britannia game, what you'd see is the Persians just leaving and moving, into the areas they care about, which would be particularly unappealing. What's kind of neat about this is not only do I not care for victory points, I don't care for income either. Well, maybe I do. I have lost 3 provinces, and I don't know how many there are, and it's kind of hard to tell. So I can't tell. I think Chaldea is going to be part of Mesopotamia. I can't see if this... it looks like there's probably some orange in there. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe this, maybe not. That looks like it must be part of Mesopotamia, which means the river line is probably the line for Persia, but again, it's not clear. So let's try again. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The river line is definitely there. 6, 7, 8, 9. This is not. So, giving up 3 provinces, and this one reverts, right, is okay. Out of 9 provinces, I can give up a few. It costs me a little bit of income, but not much. This is shitty territory, and that's what they want. And let them have it, As long as they're barbarians, they don't need good income areas. I have a mercenary card, but I'm looking at my Persians, and they only have $6, and that's dangerous. So I am not going to pay it. Even though it's not a bad price, it's just, you know, one turn use of a unit, but it would strip a unit from them and allow me to use, well, something the mercenary picks, which is probably the shittiest unit, to attack the Romans with. Usually a good deal, not when you're low on cash. The difficulty of the board has screwed me again. I didn't notice these satraps were beyond. I mean, this is a border I can almost see. We're beyond the Mesopotamian area again. I think this game is going to be so full of screw-ups of that nature because of, you know, either things I don't remember or the components not supporting the game well. Whole series of battles, they're going to get their 20 points again. But again, this is why their economy is fucked, is they're getting that 20 points each turn, but they're losing a fair amount of the units. On the other hand, the Byzantines are beginning to get weaker, so we might be losing less as we go. Large number of attacks the Persians made. I marked the areas where, as they won the battles, where they're going to have sieges. Another option would be to roll the siege right away, but it would be helpful to see what the situation is before you have to retreat. It's kind of an interesting retreat situation, but I don't know who the hell owns Armenia anymore. I think the Armenians have gotten it back somehow, and then I violated them by passing through or something. I don't know. I'm allowed to, but whatever. Persians went a step too far trying to get into Antioch. Asparagus hit them and destroyed their army, killed the leader, and now it's not that strong a Persian force facing him. So he's got enough strength that he could turn and cause even more damage, and he's caused significant damage. When you have those big battles, it's possible to get big losses where, you know, in this case, there's only 3 Persian units here, 2 of them from the battle, 2 of the best units. But, you know, what else is left is what I had lying around that successfully sieged Syria. So now the whole situation is going to turn, and it's going to be a potentially offensive one against Persia. The question being, of course, do I want to deal with the Huns as the Byzantines? In terms of points, though, I still walked away okay. 27 points. The Byzantines have only pulled 16 in so far, and they're not liable to get many more, I don't think. Yeah, an interesting thing here is you get a penalty for each Byzantine city pillaged. Well, I lost a Byzantine city. The Persians chose not to pillage it. But what if they had pillaged it? And what about these, which I did not count? I think I give them -6 on those. But again, are they Byzantine still? I don't know, you know. But they were at the beginning of the turn, so that's kind of how I view it. But why just pillage? Why not conquer? I don't know. They'd rather not see them pillaged, so they're kind of more anti-barbarian, because the Persians actually do want this, and they get nothing for pillaging it. The barbarians get something for pillaging. The only thing the Persians get is, perhaps if I remember, that penalty, which has not been sticking in my head very well. What I don't like about the particulars of this sequence of play is, in general, I'm paying attention in the West with all the barbarians. That's great. Then I go to Persia, fine. But now I'm focused on Persia and what the Byzantines can do, and now I'm back over here. There's not a really good way of handling that. But, you know, even if you were playing in an opposed game, which God forbid, I can't imagine trying to bring this, you know, trying to play this with more than just solo, where you could just fucking make up rules as you go to cope with things. Again, maybe the living rules cover most things. Maybe not according to the original intentions, and like with the hordes. But if they do, so what? It's still going to take, you're still going to be taking breaks of like a half hour to an hour trying to find some pesky little rule in this mess. Assuming you have a printed version of the living rules or whatever in front of you that you can use. This is not the way to deliver a physical game. This is the same problem I had with Lincoln's War. In the modern era, get it fucking right, and if you don't, do the GMT thing and provide something. Providing me with a PDF that replaces the rules and is a complete rewrite just doesn't cut it, and I could see as an option, of course, a company like this, or maybe MMP with their Lincoln's War shit, because again, that was Kickstartered, probably looked at as, oh, we don't have to actually invest money in this because we're doing it this way. I don't know. I mean, it hurts a company's reputation. I can't see ever picking anything up from Wisdom Owl again. And they've got some other things in the works. I just can't see it. The fact that this was let through in this shape and that this was their centerpiece that they're launching their company off of, it's just like, no, no. Not that I'd be likely to anyway, because I did kickstart 3 things this year, but that is an incredibly rare thing for me. And out of the 3, I've looked at 2 of them, and I'm kind of disappointed with both. One of them is this, obviously, which I'm... whatever. The second one was the re-release of War and Peace, which felt like less of an overhaul than I wanted. The main thing seemed to be cosmetic. And now I learned that, there was errata, and including maps and rules and stuff, and they put out a new edition of it. Yes, it's largely fixable, from what I've been told. But again, geez, how many years did you have to get that one right? And then finally, the last one is my 1817, which I'm expecting to be in pretty good shape. I'm not expecting there to be major... I'm not expecting that anything was changed in it. There might be a component issue or something, but yeah, I'm not expecting that. I'm going to be significantly disappointed. The real problem with War and Peace is I was expecting enough of an overhaul of the campaign system to make it really look good. And I've looked it over, and it just doesn't look like it does it. And it's like, yeah, I could have tinkered and tweaked with the old campaign system. And I think the map's uglier. But that's just me. I mean, those old Avalon Hill white-based maps, whatever. I have a certain affinity for it, and when I looked at something that's as colorful as this, and it's a nice map, it's just... that's not what I think of when I think War and Peace. If you're going to redo the map in such a way, the way to go was the Advanced Third Reich way. I mean, I opened that up and I'm like, wow, I don't know if I like this better or not, but it's so dramatically better in terms of visually that, like, it's hard to justify not liking it. And then when A World of War came out with its flimsy plastic coated shit map, the glossy map, I'm just like, I want to play with my Advanced Third Reich and Empire of the Rising Sun maps, and I think I'd enjoy the game better without the additions, even though it added oil and stuff like that. That kind of really, the game system's been improved, in my opinion, in A World at War. The rules have been not improved, the quality, but whatever, in terms of delivering the information. But the component quality of those maps, that was just such a drop that it almost brings me to tears to see it. I think Western Rome had been intending to play this treaty card, but of course, it not being their turn, I didn't really remember it. I think they were intending to use it on the Visigoths and get them expelled. But they're not doing much harm where they are. So, and I can't use it now. I had to use it before they took their turn. So It's an extra buck and money can be useful. Figure out the Western Roman turn. I have to try to understand the ownership of various areas. I'm pretty good in Africa, I know that. Nothing's changed there. But Gaul has gotten more complicated. We got these Burgundians in a couple of spaces. They're not under my control. We got Franks in a couple of spaces. My own doing. And what does all this mean? Well, I haven't lost control of anything unless I lost control of it. I'm missing, Paris is under my control, great. But this is gone, but I gotta figure out where the boundary is. So I think it cuts across here. This is the hardest part of the game, and then to here, and I think, I'm not sure, but I think Switzerland, Helvetia, and Rhaetia are the separation there. So that looks like I'm missing like one city in northern Gaul, unless you gotta look everywhere. Looks like I'm missing one city in northern Gaul, which is out of 2 or 3. So I think I still have partial control there. Now I think that means that I get the 5 victory points. Now again, we had this both. Is that each? What? I don't know. Son of a bitch. They have to word things like that. Let's see if it's any better in the Roman book, if I can find that. And this is what the game's all about, trying to find what the game, what happens. Okay, so they worded it the same fucking way. And now there's additional victory point things for reunification of the empire that aren't in here. They don't seem to have any victory points associated with them, so I don't know what they are. They're in the victory point section. Great. Okay, let's take a look at Southern Gaul. Southern Gaul, and again, this is what you fucking do in this game. I don't think there's a city here. Was this north? Oh, wait, this isn't northern. Oh, but that's okay. Okay, so that's 0 out of 1. I think the line is here. I own these 2 and I own that. So I think I've got Southern Gaul as well, but again, it's partial control for whatever that matters. Anywhere else that's at risk here? These are the 2 Gauls, Hispania. So I don't think I've abandoned an area. So I don't think I get a -10 victory point, and I think I actually get, I'm guessing 10 victory points for the 2 Gauls, or do I get 5 victory points for both Gauls? I don't know what they mean. They say both, not each. I'm going to say it's only 5. The Romans are doing quite well. But we had this, yeah, here they said each. Okay, so, yeah. So both, I think, means both. I hate these kind of victory point systems. So there's nothing really pressing me. And Rome doesn't generate victory points ever again in the game unless I'm not getting something from this where it talks about these. But it breaks into things that I own when it collapses, and maybe I need to know stuff about that. I'm not going to worry this game, but, you know, in the future, when you're playing when you're playing these Britannia type games, the first couple games teach you what the flow of the game is, and it's only by the 3rd or 4th game that you kind of, can start knowing what you're doing. Obviously, again, you could zone out on all the player aids and try to figure out what you need to know. And when you're playing it the first time, if you're not soloing, I can't imagine that with this, the game, you can kind of look at some of the upcoming kingdoms that you're going to be getting, and maybe other people are getting too, and get some ideas from those as to what you should be doing, and what the risks are for taking, for favoring one action over another, because it may be very important for me to have control of Britannia, but there's nothing that's showing that on the Rome card. And otherwise, my points are not get cities looted. Goddamn. Have I counted them yet? I don't know. You know, I can't remember because I put days between my playings, and yeah. This is the kind of game that's meant to be played in one sitting for the most part. This game could not be. It takes, I would imagine, at least 2 hours to play a turn. They say 4+ hours, and the shortest scenario is 1 turn. They clearly don't mean 12 turns in anything like 4 hours. Therefore, I would say maybe they're looking at it as a 50-hour game. I don't know. I mean, I just don't know. Did I give him the income? You know, I don't think I did. What the fuck? Oh, wait. Yeah, I didn't give them their income, and I bet you I didn't do that with the Byzantines, and I bet you I didn't. There's just too fucking much to deal with here. I have the income kind of written down. Maybe I can figure it out. So I've tried to best guess those victory points in both nations' cases and came up with some numbers. But now there's the what the hell do I do? I've got nothing that's overwhelmingly, geez, I need to do this. I have 3 separate leaders, one of whom is almost useless. He lets me stack an extra unit. Okay. I have lots of people I could make submit, which is great, because then, you know, they're covering areas and controlling stuff I don't want. I definitely want to submit the Burgundians. I think that's going to be easy, and I have a big stack near them. I'd love to submit the Visigoths. That looks like a good move. I could offer a feudus to the Franks, and that might be worth doing. And then I have Aulus here, who I really want to bring into play. He's a damn good general. Like my asparagus here, he's even better. And I can't quite bring him into play against Hispania. So now he becomes sort of a freebie that I can throw using the naval rules, which I have to look up to understand. I've been trying to avoid them. They haven't really served much purpose to me other than the possibility of moving the African army out of there. I'm essentially able to move these 3 units as 1 transport, and I'm allowed 2 transports per fleet. And it'll cost each of the naval units, I think, 1 movement point. And it'll cost this force 1 movement point to make the sea transport. So I can pretty much drop him anywhere and have a fair amount of movement with them. I think I'm going to use him against the Visigoths. I think the big question is what I do with the Oniferous or whatever. Whether I want to go chase the Vandals down, who are out of range almost. 1, 2, 3. I can move 4. If I had Cav, I could slip through this way, but that doesn't really help me. And try a big attack against them and get them submitted. Getting rid of an issue with a danger in terms of North Africa falling. Who knows what's allowed and what's not in terms of movement anymore. I gave the Fetus to the Franks up in these 2 northern areas, so I still control those for whatever it's worth. I'm paying them $3, but the big thing is I'm giving them 3 victory points, which is the only reason I want to give a Fetus is because I can generate more victory points for my Franks by making them such. I definitely want to hit the Burgundians, and I'm not sure this guy's capable of it, which is one reason why I'm thinking I want to use him. I don't have anything else I terribly want to whack, so I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll start doing it. All right, so I'm launching a number of attacks. I decided to use Valentinius to gather some garbage and attack the Vandals here. I'm focusing on the Burgundians here, and there was an interception, and I'm using Aulus to attack Theodosius. We're at a problem point here. Let me explain what happened elsewhere. We drove the Burgundians back, didn't get a surrender on the horde. We destroyed the Vandals, but here, the Romans did enough damage to wipe out much of the Visigoths, but not to hit this. I believe it states that that must be hit last. It also states that if you can't retreat, and I entered from all sorts of directions, you're eliminated. My feeling here is that the Visigoths should be allowed to submit rather than be destroyed to some extent. I'm not sure what, there's nothing in the rules that supports it directly, but again, and I'm not going to go hunt through the living rules to see if that's the case or whatever. You must eliminate all barbarians, but this is the thing can't retreat. And the retreat rules say things are destroyed if they can't retreat. So what I'm going to allow to have happen is I'm not going to allow the Visigoths to take a hit on this instead of one of those, but I am going to allow them to submit rather than lose this in order to survive. Because otherwise, you know, you're wiping out somebody's whole, you know, a valuable card of theirs, a valuable nation of theirs, in exchange for just having been able to catch them in a surrounding area. Now, is that a terrible thing? No, a lot of the Britannia games allow you to wipe someone out. That's fine. But it's that there's this submission concept and the fact that it's being sort of circumvented in a gamey sort of fashion that I don't like. And it would have a major impact, and I don't want that to happen. Only for Rome, I was kind of counting on Aelius to maybe finish the Burgundians off. He was assassinated in that. So at least they were limited a little bit in what has come of this. The remaining campaign by Bonifacius is not successful against the Burgundians. Aelius probably could have handled that. This was important, though. They both are. So we've got a couple of barbarians who are living inside Rome, well, quite a few actually, who are not submitted. We got the Vandals creeping up here. We got the Burgundians causing problems over here. Over here, we got the Ostrogoths coming. And then whatever the hell these two little doinkers are, Getty and something else, who are kind of positioning themselves for their problems. And on the other side, we have the submitted Huns, submitted to Western Rome, fucking with the Byzantines. The last thing I do point-wise is I look and see what I got here. And I picked up no penalty areas. I didn't cause myself more problems, and I end up getting 5 victory points for the 2 Gauls. It's not hard to see that like Roman action would take less than, say, 15 minutes, right? You know, so there's no way these turns are going to take less than an hour or 2 each, no matter how fast you go. So we're looking at least a 20-hour game. Probably not a 40-hour game, but I would say in general at least a 20-hour game when playing. Unless things become a lot more simple. Remember, when the barbarians are just moving around, they don't do much. There's a lot of cases in Britannia games, style games, where you're not doing much, you're just moving a couple of units, but that's because the territory you control is controlled by the pieces you have, and moving your pieces out of your important territories hurts you. This game instead, by focusing on this more military view, means that again and again you're doing things and it's not as clear what you own and what's going on and everything like that. And so the picture that it is painting, although it is richer and has some more interesting aspects to it, is just opaque in a way that I don't like. I would much rather... So I find the much more detailed Imperium Romanum 2 gives a clearer picture of the military operations going on, right? Which makes sense. It's focused on that. The picture that this provides is obfuscated in certain ways by the fact that it's hard to determine who owns what, who controls what. It's not simple passing through or anything like that. There's no little flags marking everything. And, you know, the movements are broad. They're not like an EU where you're fighting over a little border or something. Some of the times these movements in these 25-year periods are quite broad by the barbarians. And I don't think this game effectively presents that. I don't think it presents it at all because the rules are so fucked. But trying to get a grasp of what it's trying to do, I just don't think it quite works. And I forgot some Romans up there trying to beat up on the Britannia. It was kind of an interesting high-risk battle because the Romans only brought one unit in, which means there's no normal recovery, but there's the elite recovery, which means if the Romans took only one hit, they'd recover and they could beat up an angle and maybe take the area, whatever. Well, the Angles got good rolls with no leaders, whatever. Both had units damaged, and the Romans end up losing their garrison up there, which is a problem for them. That is going to cause them issues. Was it a worthwhile risk? I don't know. But it definitely did not pay off because now the Angles and the barbarian invaders pretty much have a free reign in Britain unless I'm willing to pay for it. Right now, Britain, I mean, these guys aren't going to be moving around or anything until the Angles come in as a real power. All right, break time for the Byzantines up next. Brief survey of the victory points for turn 6. Okay, both sides of the world, of their empire half or whatever, are of some value, but my big bonuses, 5 points and 10 points, come from controlling the Near East, the Orients, and Mesopotamia region. So if I can get full control over those, if I can basically bust Persia down to almost nothing, we're in pretty good shape. So that's where I'm going to focus. The problem is catastrophic victory defeat is not really easy in this game. You can't kind of wipe somebody off the map or guarantee you're going to subjugate a kingdom like this because their troops just keep respawning after every battle. Now, luckily for me, the Persians have no leadership anymore, and their forces aren't really able to support each other much because of stacking limitations. So my additional leaders are moving in. We're going to try to put Persia on the run. The basic moves, and we were successful in both of our attacks. The problem is, you know, they're still the same Persian forces, more or less. Yeah, we killed off one unit, but as we push forward, we're just not doing... So, here's the thing. If you hit a big army and do a lot of damage to it, the same escape happens as if you hit kind of a smaller army and wipe it out. But if the enemy doesn't give you big armies, you're just pushing them back a space at a time as opposed to being able to do significant damage to them. The Persians are missing a lot of pieces. They're probably still going to have trouble building their army up, especially as they start losing income. But, you know, can I get all of Mesopotamia in the next 2 turns? I don't know. I don't know. As I continue my campaign, does it make more sense for the Persians to try to run away? That doesn't, because then the Romans can keep moving. Fight a battle with less units. You get more victory points if you kill more units, but, you know, it might make more sense not to lose units. I feel like that's kind of cheap, so I'm going to probably try to throw something in. Asparagus here. Yeah. Managed to make it to Chaldea, defeat the Persians, but couldn't win the siege. It was 3 rolls at 9 or more. I wasn't willing to sacrifice units. We got a bunch of satraps dying on the way in. All the good stuff, of course, still alive. The stuff that like makes the battles actually worth fighting. Um, so yeah, we've taken a chunk of Mesopotamia. It amounts to a city. There are still 1, 2, 3 cities, I think, in Mesopotamia. Maybe Medea is there too. I don't know. It's hard to tell. That's kind of brown. Like this looks like it's a river line. This looks like it's not. It's just the way this game works. I don't know where we're on Persia and where we're not. I'm guessing this is Mesopotamia and this is Persia up here. But again, you know, and I could look these things up. They're in the I don't even know what the fuck to call it. There's a term for it. It's not a glossary. It's a something or other. Poor brain not handling this. You know, this word should just be on the top of my head. It should not be something I have to fucking look up. And it's not in this booklet. It's in a different booklet. Probably the rule booklet. Gazetteer. That's the word. It's a word I've only ever seen in games. But yeah, I mean, it has its meaning otherwise, and I could look that up and try to understand it. But you know, that's a pain in the ass too. That's more of a pain in the ass than making a guess from the map. It might be helpful in some kind of certainty, though. So I think that's the end of the turn, and I just got to add points up. I'll be back in a moment, but after that, I'm done for a while. At some point or another, Rome has to stop generating the most points. They're dropping. They're down to 61 now. This is the least they've gotten ever. The first turn was only 74, but it's 22 for our Huns and green guys, 30 for our Persians. They basically got most of that points by demolishing their army against the Byzantines. And you can see that the Persians are kind of waning. So it's not so clear with the Byzantines that they are. They may be in okay shape. You know, and I mean, the Byzantine Empire lasted, at least in some form or another, until about, 1450 or something. I want to say 1454, but I'm not that certain. And then blue collected 11 points. So, I mean, nobody is putting up value anywhere near what the Romans are. Nobody's really trying to avoid hurting Romans or anything like that. It's just, this is what we got. End of diplomacy, I gotta throw some money. So like I said, I'm gonna take a little bit of a break. That little bit of a break is to play something else, and then we'll come back. We're a third of the way through this 4+ hour game. You know, you see 4+ hours, you expect you're looking at something that, you know, all right. If it takes 8 hours the first time, we'll live with it. But that's not, you know. And it didn't ship with any of the smaller scenarios. Not that I consider that an argument. You really ought to delineate what the real game is going to cost in terms of time. You know, if I pick up EU, and I don't remember what it says on it, but somewhere on it says more than, you know, 30 minutes. It probably says something like 30 minutes to 100 hours or something.